Welcome everyone. My name is Brendan Snyder. Thank you for joining me. Unfortunately, we have lost another great musician today. Former UFO, Waysted, and Lone Star guitarist Paul Chapman has died at the age of 66. He was affectionately known by the nickname of Tonka, and as I said, he was only 66, which I think is just way too young, unfortunately, but I found this interesting. He was born on June 9th of 1954 and died today, June 9th of 2020, so exactly 66 years, and he died on his birthday. I'd like to pay tribute to him by going back through his history of all the great music that he created and provided to us over the years. So if we jump back all the way to the beginning, Paul's first foray into music as a major artist at least was replacing Gary Moore in his band Skid Row in 1971. Now this only lasted until 1972 where he joined a new group, Kilmataz. And then in 1974 he joins UFO, but as second guitarist adding to their live sound. Although he didn't record an album with them at the time, he did promote their album Phenomenon, which came out in 1974 and toured for that with them. But he did leave UFO in 1975 due to personal differences. Now at that time, UFO would go on to release 4 more albums before Paul Chapman got involved again. They released 1975's Force It. I think all of these are just fantastic albums. UFO did some great stuff back then. No Heavy Petting, 1976. Lights Out, which came out in 77. And a really fantastic one, Obsession, from 1978. Now, while UFO was off doing that and continuing, Paul Chapman formed the group Lone Star and released 2 albums for CBS Records, the self-titled album Lone Star from 1976 and then Firing on All 6 from 1977. And this is a great little double album package here on the BGO Records label that you can pick up if you're interested in checking that period out by Paul Chapman. Now, in 1977, he returned to UFO by filling in for an absent Michael Schenker on UFO's tour with Rush, which I think would just be amazing seeing both UFO and Rush on the same tour, but unfortunately that was before my time. Now, following Michael Schenker's departure in 1978, Paul Chapman finally joins UFO as a full-time member. And this is, by this time, UFO are just huge international sensations. They're blowing up at this point, having released those 4 albums that I previously showed you. But they're about to release their career-defining live album, Strangers in the Night, in which Paul Chapman plays on here. And so when they go out to promote this album, it was Paul Chapman doing that tour. And that came out in 1979. Now, Paul Chapman's first studio album with UFO was 1980's No Place to Run, which is a really fantastic album by both UFO and, of course, Paul Chapman on it. And it was produced by George Martin of Beatles fame. So pretty interesting that they got him to do that, which I do think pushes that album up a notch. Now, he would remain with UFO until 1983, releasing 3 more albums with them. The Wild, the Willing, the Innocent in 1981, Mechanics in 1982, and my personal favorite, Making Contact from 1983. I really like this album. I just think it's solid from top to bottom, and what a fantastic album cover too. Now, Making Contact, that album was the first album without founding member Pete Way in it, and that figures in because later, when Paul Chapman leaves UFO, he reconnects with Pete Way in the band Waysted and records 2 albums with them. He does The Good, the Bad, and the Waysted, which came out in 1985. This was actually Wasted's 3rd album by that point. And then Save Your Prayers in 1986. And this one here is of note because it actually features future Taiketo vocalist Danny Vaughan. If you remember these guys from the late 80s and early 90s, they had a really big hit with the song Forever Young. Do check them out if you're not familiar with them, just great stuff. And then in 1993, Paul Chapman was actually in line to be part of the UFO reunion that was going to take place that ultimately became Walk on Water. But Michael Schenker, whether fortunately or unfortunately, agreed to do that, and so Paul Chapman did not take part within it. It would have been interesting if they were both in it, but that did not happen. And for the remaining years of Paul Chapman's life, he didn't actually record any full-length albums or join any, bands of note. He did record a number of tribute spots on records or guest spots on records and things like that. So he was out there constantly saying his name and doing things, but never really joining any bands or doing anything after that. So at this point, we are left with his fantastic output from UFO, Lone Star, and Waysted. And, certainly Paul Chapman is going to be missed. His presence is going to be missed, and the beautiful guitar work that he did on those albums. But obviously it's going to live on in our hearts and minds for a very long time. Paul Chapman, please rest in peace. We will miss you, and we will continue to enjoy and love your music going forward. I hope everyone enjoyed this, and if you did, please leave your comments about Paul Chapman and UFO and his other bands. Let me know your thoughts on everything. Have a great day. Take care.